strength does not equal like working yourself to death. It's not like, it doesn't show up in like hours worked. Like, oh, I stay late and I come in early, I'm strong. That's actually not what strength is. And more importantly, like, it's not going to give you what you think it is. So that's a myth as well, that like strength requires a lot of sacrifice. Being strong means taking less. That we need to just get rid of out of our vocabulary. Also, this belief that like, if you take on all the tasks that nobody wants, that the next thing coming for you is a promotion. Let me just sit in silence. It's not coming. Like, it's not coming. What will happen is the person who does less than you but is more visible will just be your boss because they need you to stay at the bottom doing all those tasks. Trust and believe, that is not the answer. And so don't go into work like being like yes to everybody. I'm tough, never complaining, never having struggles. That does not equal what you think it's going to do. Like you said, that doesn't eat the way people think it is.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to 2 Decades Deep Podcast. We're a podcast that talks about the ebbs and flows, the highs and lows of our 20s. I'm your host, Taylor Howard, and I'm so glad you're here. And whether you're tuning in on Spotify, YouTube, and I'm going to stop saying Apple Podcasts because we're not on Apple Podcasts. I can't figure it out for the life of me. So if you know how to subscribe and do all those things with the podcast, please let me know in the comments because I can't figure it out. But anyway, you can consume the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, whichever way you consume it. We're so glad that you're here. Today, we are talking about burnout, and I feel like this is for the achievers, for the new grads that are now going into the first couple years of their career. This episode is definitely for you. This is for the women of color, the working moms. This is for everybody. And I started this segment a little earlier with my solo episode about something that I've been sitting with. So I give a little bit of insight as to what goes on, what goes down in my journals. And this is something that I've been sitting with, is just balancing it all and feeling like I have to have it all together professionally. And I'll read a little excerpt on it before I segue into our amazing guest that we'll have on the show. So something that has been sitting with me lately, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to want a full life and how complicated that actually feels in practice. On paper, the things that I want seem simple. I want a career. I want to succeed. I want to build something meaningful. I want to feel proud of the work I'm doing and know that it's leading somewhere. But I also want peace. I want to laugh with my friends on a random weeknight. I want to go outside when the sun is still up. I want to feel rested. I want to take care of my body. I want to enjoy the life I'm building while I'm building it. And lately, I've been feeling like it's hard to hold all those desires at the same time. Working full-time, managing all these responsibilities, trying to keep momentum towards the bigger goals, it's truly a lot. And sometimes the burnout sneaks up quietly. Not always in some dramatic, life-altering way, but sometimes it's just in the small decisions that feel heavier than they should. Like wondering, do I want to work out tonight? Or do I stay home and binge watch something because I'm exhausted? Do I go out with my friends? Or do I stay in and work on something that might move me closer to where I want to be? Do I make a hard stop at 5 and protect my time? Or do I keep pushing, hoping the extra effort will eventually lead to the promotion, the opportunity, the breakthrough? None of these questions are technically life or death decisions, but when they happen every day, they start feeling like a tug of war. There's a constant underlying question. Is this all worth it? The truth is, I don't think I have the answer yet. Dang, that sounds sad, but it's something that I really am wrestling with. It's like, what does it mean to have it all? Should I really be putting all this effort into it? When am I going to find, I feel like I have joy, but when am I going to find holistic joy in all the things that I do? Or do I need to pivot? And I think that's why this conversation that we have with our guest coming up is so important. She's going to talk about burnout. She's going to talk about finding boundaries and choosing joy. Her name is Kelley Bonner. She is the podcast host of Black Girl Burnout, and she's a licensed therapist. Without further ado, let's welcome Kelley. Kelley, thank you so much for being on 2 Decades Deep Podcast.
Excited to be here, Taylor. Excited to chat.
I'm so excited to chat. Actually, I want to tell you how I even found Black Girl Burnout. So I was on Substack. I'm a new Substack girly. And I was in a state where I was like, okay, I need to find professional development articles. I need to find resources to manage stress. And I stumbled upon one of your articles and I subscribed and I was hooked ever since. And I was like, I absolutely need to have her on the podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you found me.
Yes, you're absolutely amazing. And I think what you're doing is so needed. It's so necessary. And before we really dive into the conversation, I would love to give you the floor to just explain what is Black Girl Burnout.
Yeah, so Black Girl Burnout has now become really a platform. It started as a podcast solely, but it's become a platform where Black women can just come find pockets of ease and learn tips and tools to prevent burnout, give softness structure in their life. Everyone's saying soft life, but like, how do you do that in realistic ways? And really, for me, it's been about redefining ambition for Black women. It's like, it's okay to want to do great things and to be great, but maybe not at the cost of your soul. So Black Girl Burnout is that platform where across, TikTok and Instagram and in the podcast and Substack, we dive into those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as someone who is in my 20s, I'm climbing up the corporate ladder, I'm striving and constantly trying to prove myself. I think that this is a good constant reminder for that. You mentioned the soft life, and there's a lot of misconceptions of like what that ultimately means. From your perspective, because I know that in you all's Instagram, it says from Black women moving from survival to softness. What does the definition of softness mean to you?
I think it's just a life you enjoy, a life that doesn't force you to like self-abandon or betray yourself, right? So it's like, I think about all the ways right now, soft life is getting a bad rap, and honestly, rightfully so. I think a lot of people have like taken over the movement and it's become luxury adjacent. Like now we need to all be rich on top of being soft, or it's become like that means that you don't want to work. Like I'm pursuing soft life, so that means I'm just going to like lay on the couch all day long. And so now we see like people doubling down on hustle culture. It's like, well, I got to work. I don't know what y'all are doing. I need to work. And I don't think it's that either. I think it's just living your life in a way that doesn't feel like every day you're pushing through or feeling like you're pulled apart, and that you can stay true to yourself and still center joy and also be successful.
Awesome. So I think before we go into the breakdown, and we're gonna talk about a lot about burnout, setting boundaries, and living a holistic life. But I would love to know a little bit more about why you ultimately decided to go into the therapy space.
Good question. I think for me, I always wanted to help people, and I had a couple of other dreams. Like I don't have this, like, I don't want to be like overly romantic and be like, I just always knew I was going to be a therapist. No, no, I didn't. I probably should have picked jobs that made more money. Whoops. But I knew I wanted to help. I knew I wanted to help people. Like I knew that. And so I wanted to get into legal, and it was like, what do I like about this? It's like, I want to help people who need tools. And like first I thought it was a law, and it was like, okay, not the law, because I was watching TV and I was crashing out watching people go to jail, and I was like, no, I'm too soft for that. And so then it became about how can I help people. I also knew what population I wanted to work with. I wanted to work with people of color. Like I always wanted to do that, and I was like, I'll give therapy a try, because I really think I could connect with people well and do that. And so that's really like the steps that led there. There were some zigs and zags in between, but that's where I settled. And then I was like, look, college costs a lot of money. What can I get a degree in that's quick, that's versatile? And so I have like a social work degree, and I have a secondary master's in criminal justice. And like, you just can't be unemployed as a social worker. So I was like, that's how we got to here.
I love that. As someone who went to school for journalism, I very much empathize with like, why didn't I choose a career that made money? So I definitely understand.
Why not finance, right?
Right. Why didn't I want to be a doctor? Like, what's going on with me? But I had the same sentiment of like, I want to tell people stories. I've always enjoyed storytelling. So I definitely relate to the fact that sometimes careers find you at a very early age, and it may look a little different, but ultimately what you have the purpose in, I think ultimately shines through. You mentioned that you always had a passion for helping people of color, but I'm wondering, when did the shift happen where you realized, wait, a lot of these women of color are burned out, or a lot of people, like their careers, even though it's something that they deeply want to pursue, it's also simultaneously affecting their mental health. Can you share that revelation?
I mean, part of it was selfishly, it's what happened to me. And then when I asked other people, they're like, yeah, me too. And we all were just kind of like, you're just going to crash out 5 times in your career and that's normal. And they're like, yeah, that's normal. And so for me, what I realized in my own experience, I always tell people I had my own spectacular burnout story. And in the process of that and healing that is where I realized I didn't know what had happened to me. Like I knew I had felt terrible. I knew I'd quit a job. I knew all these things, right? But I didn't have language for it until I started studying burnout itself. And then I was just like, oh, one, that's the word for what's happening. But two, I'm not alone. Like Black women are dealing with this. People are dealing with this often, but Black women often have a unique kind of burnout because we don't talk about it that much. It's just kind of like I got sick and tired and I'm like in my bed on the weekend all the time. Like we don't use words like depression and burnout and anxiety, like especially not to date myself, but like when I was coming up and doing this. So it was my own experience. And then I realized I'm not alone. And when I asked other people, my friends who are Black women, being like, did this happen to you before? They're like, yes. And then that became, well, how did I get out of it? How do I stay out of it? One, and then how do I help others, particularly Black women?
Absolutely. And I also, we talked a little bit before we started the episode, but I feel like I'm currently in a burnout stage. And I often allude burnout to just purely exhaustion. And I love how you said that you were able to find like, wait, it could be more. It could be depression. It could be anxiety. It can be a multitude of things. But you also mentioned in your platform that it's not just exhaustion, it could be disconnection. And I'm interested to know, what does that look like tangibly, or how did that come out in your life?
So disconnection, loneliness, however it looks like, the thing about like Black women is like we tend to like soldier through things, right? And push through alone. And the interesting thing when I say disconnection, people think, well, no, I talk to my girls, I have my partner, I talk to my mom, whatever. And it's not necessarily like literally you sit in the corner by yourself, although for some people that is what it means. But it also means disconnected from having those conversations that would make you feel vulnerable. That's a level of disconnection. It's like, yeah, you have all these people in your life. Do they know that you're struggling? No, that's a disconnection. And then there's just disconnection or numbness from yourself and from the things that you do and the things that you love. Like when I ask people what brings them joy, sometimes they're like, I got to think on that because it's been a long time since I felt that. That's its own form of disconnection. And when I ask people, what do you love about, we'll just take for you, you love journalism, let's say, and let's say you were in the journalism field and then all of a sudden you burned out and you're like, I actually hate writing now. Like I chose this as a medium. Like I like print media. Now I hate it. That's another form of disconnection. So it's disconnection in multiple ways.
That's a really good way to put it. And I'm not even sure I even thought of it like that. I'll never forget, and I mentioned it on a previous episode where I was in the middle of moving to DC and I was just figuring my life out there, just started a career. And my therapist asked me, what are 5 things you like? I was mute. Like I couldn't even think of 5 things I like. And hearing you explain what disconnection looks like, I think that was a form of it. I was grinding so much that I couldn't even find out what I liked outside of grinding, which brings me to my next point, because something that I feel like I struggle with and other 20, and I would even say 30-somethings have discussed is, but that's what we're supposed to do. The majority of our 20s and 30s are for getting these degrees, are for figuring out our careers, are working really hard so we could essentially have the softer life in the future. I'm wondering, what is the balance when it comes to that, or is there a balance?
I think there is a balance. I think, again, it's about redefining what softness is and giving it structure. And when I say softness with structure, I don't mean like a 10-point bullet point plan, like, right? I mean, it's giving it like a place to live, a little container to sit in. And so what that means is like, there are some days where you have more time for things that bring you joy and make you soft than others. And so it's like going back to like, what's something you could do in 5 minutes? What's something you can do in 15 or less? And so there's that piece when it comes to like infusing joy and bringing in the things you like, whether you are studying, whether you are working hard at a job, you can always find 5 to 15 minutes, right? And making sure that's a part of it. And then the other part when I say, softness is structure, is it's also like a mentality and lifestyle. It's not necessarily wearing cashmere and like lounging on your couch, it's also about the ways that you will not betray yourself and abandon yourself. So it's like I have like an affirmation I carry with myself. I say this almost every single day, especially these days, which is that when the world is hard, I become soft. And it's just a reminder to myself that like I am not going to respond in kind to what I see around me. I'm not going to crash out, cuss out, really like alienate people around me just because I'm having a tough time and the world is on fire. It's like I'm going to actually choose what's the softer version of that. It's like maybe I need to go sit down. Maybe I need to take a breath, right? Like maybe I need to call a friend and not crash out on TikTok, right? Like those are the kinds of ways that you can bring softness and have it embedded in your life versus just saying, I need to be soft, but I also want to be successful.
Absolutely. And I feel like I love that the crash out and curse out, because I feel like sometimes I'd be on the edge.
Everybody, thin line. It's a thin line.
A very much thin line. And I feel like a lot of that comes to, for me, incorporating and setting healthy boundaries. And for you, I'd love to know, like, what is your definition of boundaries? And has that changed since, I know you said pre-burnout, when you had that burnout situation. So can you dive into that a little bit?
Well, I can tell you it's changed because I have some, and I did not have any in my 20s at all. I was like a free-for-all. Come, take, use, abuse. So it's definitely different in that respect. And then the second part of the way what I had to do in my brain to make boundaries work for me is I had to remember that they were a way to keep me safe and keep the people I love and people in my life or in who choose to be in my life safe too. Because oftentimes we think like boundaries are this negative thing. It's always a no. It's always a stop. And again, those are boundaries, and that's not negative to say no. But if we wait till it's like a no, get out of my face, I'm setting a boundary, we've gone too far. Like it's probably there were things we could have done before then. And then we think they're selfish. And so language is like, what do I need to feel safe to be productive, to be successful, all these things? Well, I need people not calling me at 3 a.m. with the crisis of the month. Like that just can't have that, right? But I also need to keep the people I love safe who want to call at 3 a.m. and be like, girl, call at 8. Or I will call, we have a standing check-in. That's a boundary, right? Like Friday at 5, we're going to go do happy hour and I'm going to listen to you vent. And then it becomes a way to have that conversation and to keep the people I love and care about in my life, and also to keep me safe so I can do the things that I need to do without burning out.
You mentioned something very important, that you don't want people to wait until they're at their wits' end and now they're like, get out of my face. What I'd love to know, in your specific experience, when did you, either how you physically felt or maybe your mindset of, wait a second, I'm getting to the point where I think I need to set boundaries? Because I think boundaries is something that people talk about, we know about it, but it's another thing to actually recognize that we need to implement boundaries and then actually put into action.
Yeah, so a couple things in your body. Let's start with the ways you can, I'll say for myself, but then just in general, how you can determine your body. We all have had those moments when we're talking to people and we just feel like something in even like the pit of our stomach, or we like read an email and we're like, our jaws clenched or something like that, right? So indicators of like it's time to set a boundary can be in your body. Like when you feel tension or you feel like something in the pit of your stomach or you feel like dread, it's an indication to set the boundary. And oftentimes what happens is we say yes to that thing 5 times and then we're like, the 6th time you've gone too far and now I'm going to like tell you off, right? And so in the body, think about ways that your body reacts when things are being said to you, when requests are being asked of you. Just take a breath and be like, do I feel something? Am I feeling away? If you're feeling away, set a boundary. And it can be as simple as, let me think on that, right? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And then there's ways that you can see it kind of like in your life. Where does your time go? A lot of times, and where's your free time go? Okay, maybe it goes a lot to work because you're trying to build a career and all those things, understandable. But when it's like time for yourself, where's that going? And if you find it's going to people and places and things that you're like, I would rather just be on the couch than doing this, then it's like my calendar tells me that I need to put a boundary in place because I'm never home, or I'm like always staying late at work. And so there's all these kind of different markers for that. And for me, it's those things. Like I feel it, like I don't know how to explain it. Like I just feel away. And I think your listeners know what that means, right? Like I just feel away when somebody asks me something. I'm like, that's hitting me different. It's probably a no. But if I feel like a little bit of like, don't say no, I'll just say, can I get back to you? Like, let me think on that. Right. And then if I look at my calendar and be like, I haven't had a weekend or a Friday night or anything to myself, this is a sign I need to set a boundary.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to do that, because one thing that I've tried to incorporate now is literally having a physical calendar, so I can actually see what is on my calendar and see how I'm stacking my days. Am I putting too much on my plate? And I know I asked something very similar, but I think I just really want to drive this home. And I'm a Scandal girly. I love watching Scandal. And I remember Xavier Pope, I believe that's his name. He said to Kerry Washington, like, you have to be twice as good. And I feel like as Black and brown women, we feel the need to be twice as good, not just professionally, but personally showing up in our romantic relationships, if we have children or if we are guardians of someone. And it's not, unfortunately, people feel like, well, I can't take care of myself, or I can't set those boundaries because I have 2 jobs, or I have a kid, or I'm a single mom, etc. And so what do you say when people feel like they're at a rock and a hard place when it comes to that?
Yeah. And I feel like we've done ourselves this disservice, not because it's a lie, but like teaching particularly women that they have to be worked twice as hard is become dangerous, because it spills out into all these different places it's not meant to be. Like in the workplace, that's one bucket. I'm coming back to that. But you do not need to be working twice as hard in your relationships. Like, what are we talking about? No, you deserve to get as much as you give. Like, that is fair. And yes, there's sometimes where like a friend or a partner or a family member is going through it and they can't give you as much as you're giving them, but you should be able to feel like when it's my turn or when something's coming up, I can do the same. And somehow we've made that like a global lesson. Like, we are all just out here working. And as a result of that, I think we are more taken advantage of. And then when you look at the workplace, it's really funny. I was having this incredible conversation with somebody about that on the podcast, actually. And we were talking about like what it means to be taken from or extracted from versus excellence. That was really what I wanted to know. What's the difference between this twice as hard, half as far mentality and just being good at your job? And I think we need to rewrite that. It's like excellence looks like, and then filling it in for your job. Like, what does that actually just look like? Not working twice as hard. What does it look like to be good at insert your job? And then striving for that. And the rest of it is going to fall into place, because there are really like kind of specific work boundaries you can set and work strategies. I think for Black women, it's not working twice as hard to get half as far. It's actually strategizing twice as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean a lot more work. It just takes a lot more planning. And that is like the kind of thing I would tell like someone in their 20s. And I tell myself now, who's not in her 20s, about that. It's like, no, I just need to strategize better. That is the key to make myself visible in the right ways, to make sure that I show up on the right projects so I get credit. Like, it is strategy, not like work and work and work. Because that does not, I hate to say it, it does not pay off in the way you think it will.
Absolutely. And I feel like I had like a very transparently, I believe I was 26. So that was a couple years ago. And I had a moment where my body literally shut down, and I was told that I had vertigo, and that's a lot of times induced with stress. And I kind of felt like my body was doing a disservice, because I'm like, I am trying to accomplish and be the best version of myself, but at the detriment of my health. And so I definitely relate to, yeah, it's really not doing all that. It's not eating like I think it is. It's not doing what I want it to do. And so with that, I think, what myths do you think that young adults still believe about being strong or the self-sacrifice? We talked about it a little bit, but I would love to know if you could dive into that a little more.
Yeah, I mean, strength does not equal like working yourself to death. It's not like it doesn't show up in like hours worked. Like, oh, I stay late and I come in early, I'm strong. That's actually not what strength is. And more importantly, like it's not going to give you what you think it is. So that's a myth as well. That like strength requires like a lot of sacrifice. Being strong means taking less. That we need to just get rid of out of our vocabulary. Also, this belief that like if you take on all the tasks that nobody wants, that the next thing coming for you is a promotion. Let me just sit in silence. It's not coming. Like, it's not coming. What will happen is the person who does less than you but is more visible will just be your boss because they need you to stay at the bottom doing all those tasks. Trust and believe. That is not the answer. And so don't go into work like being like yes to everybody. I'm tough, never complaining, never having struggles. That does not equal what you think it's going to do. Like you said, that doesn't eat the way people think it is. And yeah, you're a scandal girly, but Olivia, do we really want to be Olivia Pope? No, we do not. Okay, we don't. Okay, we really want to be running after Fitz? No. Do we really want to be dodging bullets? No. Do we want to drink that giant glass? She was alcoholic, okay? I love me some scandal, but that is not a model of successful Black womanhood I am trying to be, right? And you see somebody who's just willing to do anything at any time. And she does not look to me like where I want to see my life. Like her outfits were fly, her life not so much, right? And at the end, she goes off to, well, I don't want to spoil it for people, but she doesn't stay doing all of that, right? So she finds her peace. And so I just feel like we need to abandon these kinds of stories and women who are fun to consume and enjoy. Like, I want to be clear, but are not necessarily career markers because you do not get to success through self-betrayal. I don't believe it. And if you do, you cannot hold it. You can't keep it.
Absolutely. And I think it just brings up, sure, we were laughing about Olivia Pope, but I think that holistically, the way Black and brown women are portrayed in the media and also portrayed as these characters are the do-it-all, the person that comes in and saves the day, the one that self-betrays, like you said. And so there's truth to that and how Black women actually live their daily lives, and I'm all for it, debunking that as well. I do want to move into a segment which is called Let's Go Deeper, where there are questions or perspectives that the audience has asked that we would love for you to just talk through, dive into, and share your perspective on it. You down?
Okay, let's do it.
Alrighty. So the first one is someone asked, many people in their 20s feel like they constantly have to prove themselves. We kind of talked about this a little bit at work, in relationships, their personal lives. What is actually happening psychologically when people feel that pressure?
I think it's just because our bodies are always wired for safety. We're always trying to make things safe for ourselves. And so this belief that like working harder creates safety, even if it doesn't, like even if you're doing it and you're like, I don't see any benefits in your body, it's like, okay, we're doing something. And safety, like historically has meant movement. Like no matter what you subscribe to, the original way the body was engineered is like when you don't feel safe, in the past, it was like, a plague or like something running after you, right? So safety and getting away from a bad person or a bad thing that's coming for you equaled movement. And so even though that sounds like what, if you think about it in today's context, what does movement mean for us? Busy work, doing tasks, having 55 items on a to-do list. Movement equals safety in the past. And so it's about rewiring that to say, no, it actually doesn't. Pausing equals safety because more of our brain comes online when we take a breath that we can then do that strategy over just to-do work and busy work. So that's where it comes from. And then the second place it comes from is like culture. We, Black Americans particularly, but Black people across the diaspora, our origin stories lay in being exploited for our labor. So it's like we were doing it for free and unwillingly in the past. And there is that stayed in the culture of like, work for your value because your value was literally tied to what you produced if you are American, a Black American, right? And even from those who've endured slavery across the globe. And so those two things together, I think, is what psychologically makes people want to work more and do more.
And you've mentioned this is a follow-up question. This is not part of the Let's Go Deeper, but I think this is a natural way to introduce this. You've mentioned a strategy piece a couple of times. Can you say what what does that look like tangibly? And maybe you can apply it to your own life.
Yo, no, I was excited. I'm like, I want to tell people like strategy only gets you so like, what is that, girl? Tell me what the strategy is. So the strategy to me is like a couple things. One, it's mentorship, making sure you pick good mentors matters. And your mentor should be somebody. So when we talk about strategy, it's like mentorship really quickly. Your mentor should be someone who can either open doors for you or know someone who can, and really broaden your understanding of what a mentor is, right? Like, don't get somebody who's like you, who did the exact same things as you only, right? Like, that's fine. Get a Black woman who came up in your field. Yes, that should be on the board of your of your mentors. Also, if you can find a white man who's an ally, get a mentor from a white man who's an ally. Get a male of some kind or a male identified person in your group of people who mentor you, because we have to be honest about our world. In our world, whether we like it or not, a lot of the people at the top who are pulling the strings are men. And so knowing their perspective and having them being able to move things or connect you with people matters. The second thing is picking visibility moments, and that's different for different people. So for me, it's like, now that I know who's on board, who's like a mentor, who's someone who's helping me, how do I make sure that I then pick projects, pick activities that work for me, and doing it first. Don't wait for your boss to be like, we got a DEI event, or we're not even doing that anymore. We're like, we have a Black thing. Black person, Kelley, you Black, you in charge of that. Like, that's not even what I do. Nope, doesn't matter. That's your, no, show up to that meeting. Trust me on this. This is how I got into the C-suite. Show up to that meeting with your own list of projects that you want to work on. Volunteer yourself. And also always be thinking, the third piece I'll say for now, because I could go on this for hours and we don't got the time, but I would say the third piece is always be asking the question, what does this job do for me? Not what you do for your job. That does not equal dollars or satisfaction. What does this job do for me? Ask it every week. Put in your calendar, write it down in a sticky, I don't care how you do it, do it in a voice note. What did the job give you? Like, does it give you professional development opportunities? Does it give you connections? Does it give you like, I could put this on my resume, and if I say I work for this company, it means something, right? That's how you continue to figure out if your effort is worth it. The minute you're like, nothing, get on USA, I don't know, USA Jobs if you're a government employee, Indeed, LinkedIn, get on somewhere and start finding yourself another job. Don't quit your job till you find a new one, but immediately start looking. If you say nothing, new job. That's just a couple of things off the top of my head.
That's really, really good advice. And I'm glad that we were able to walk through a little bit more about what that strategy looks like. And yeah, I think that all those three things are very strong. Something we've also talked about a little bit is, we've talked about being the twice as hard. And we've said, like, we got to stop that. We just got to undo that. But what does that actually look like to unlearn or undo that? I know we said the boundaries and things like that, but what are some of the steps that someone could take to unlearn that?
I think part of it is, again, asking that question, what does this job give me? And where do I want to go? I think we're asking we're assuming the work part, but we're not asking, where are we going? Like, working twice as hard for what? Like, what is the what that you're working twice as hard for? Because that's like never got finished. If you ever heard that saying said to you, or you saw it on Scandal, like, he didn't actually finish where we're going. Like, where was she trying to go? I don't know. She was just told to work, right? So let's that's why we got to debunk it, because it's like, where are we going? What do you actually want? Because we need to start reverse engineering our careers, not just like dropping in them and trying to figure out where we're going to go next. So it's like, if you want to be let's just make it up, you're going to be a media mogul, then start thinking about, what are those people doing? What does their days look like? And so it's not about twice as hard. It's about like copying or looking at pieces of what people that are doing that are successful in the world and in the places you want to be. And then second to that, it's like, okay, maybe when you get there and study them, you're like, I don't want to do that. Like, I see these people, like, I don't have the stamina for that. I'll tell you personally, for myself, I don't have the stamina to be number one at anything. Because I'm not getting up at 4, I'm not taking 10 peptides, I'm not like doing 10 crunches, I'm not doing any of that. So I just want to be, let's gauge our ambition down a bit then. Like, I'm not trying to be number one. How about top 30? What is the top 30 person doing? And that's how I kind of start thinking about it. So I don't think about work for work's sake. I think about strategy again, and I think about who's living a life closer to what I want and how are they getting it, and is that something I can do or not?
I actually heard of a creator that said, you don't have to copy me, but why reinvent the wheel if I've already carved the path? Like, just follow that and you'll have similar results. Like, there's no need to reinvent that. And I think that directly ties to what you were saying.
Yeah, we're doing too much. Like, it's already out here and we're working to nowhere. Like, we're just literally going nowhere. I'm like, what are we working for? And many people just don't know. They're like, I don't know. I think I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a promotion. It's like, let's do another moment of silence. No.
Yeah, 100%. And we've talked a lot about careers, but we know that burnout extends beyond just the professional space. We know that sometimes it shows up in friendships and relationships too. How can someone recognize when a relationship is emotionally draining or when it's beyond our limits?
I mean, I go back to like the very scientific phrase of when you feel away. And we all know what that's like when you feel away in a relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic or of your family. When you have resentment, that's usually a sign somewhere along the way that you are feeling drained, a boundary is being violated, something is going on with the relationship. And so it's important to like check in first because we're so good at denying our bodies and denying like what we're feeling and just either feeling like pretending to get away with guilt or whatever. The other thing is like, particularly for Black women, we are often like charged with being what I call like culture carriers. Like we're like holding the culture up on our shoulders, right? We're like holding up Black America. It feels like this is like a charge that gets placed on us. And that can be like, I'm not necessarily anti that per se, but it really, you're not in charge also of like holding up your parents, your grandparents, your children, your partner. Like we take it too far and we feel like we have to carry people. Good news, in your personal relationships, no, you don't. Like it's meant to be mutual carrying. And if you're partnered with someone who never carries you in any which way, like doesn't help you financially or emotionally, and really you should be doing all those things. That should be all of those things together. But like you can't think of the last time in any way you felt carried or taken care of, then you need to readjust that relationship and or reevaluate if it needs to be in your life. And the same with like family members, not necessarily always just like chucking your family out, but more so being like, do I need to pull back a little bit because I don't need to carry everyone on top of like, that's not my responsibility. And so when I start feeling resentful or feeling like I'm carrying too much, I just pull back a little bit and I just say, let me think a little bit about things and let me kind of match the energy I'm getting instead of making up for the energy I'm not.
That is a very strong point. I actually interviewed in a previous season another therapist. He was Korean, and he talked about this idea of the collective and having to show up whether you're exhausted or not for the state of your family. And I think that society is starting to unlearn that, but I'm glad that you brought that up because I do think that it's like, at what cost am I, going back to that self-betrayal, am I betraying myself? A mom actually requested this, had this question, because obviously you can't leave your kids. I mean, you can, but it's not that easy. Right. And so with working moms and wanting to climb that corporate ladder, but also show up for their children, they feel like they're constantly at battle with that. What are ways that working mothers can combat that or find space for them while also showing up in parenthood?
Yeah. And honestly, I want to be like, I have to be honest. It's really hard. Like, I think the other thing is like, we lie to people all the time. We're like, oh yeah, girl, be a mom, be like a super, like you could do it all and never be tired. I'm like, that's a lie. Like you're going to be tired if you're a professional and a parent. But that doesn't mean you have to be burned out and like hating your life. There's a difference between like tired and like I can't get out of bed or I hate my life. These kids, I don't know what I'm doing. Like there's a difference there. So I want to first say that because I think we've kind of lied to women about motherhood and we need to stop that. And then the second thing I would say is that the way to kind of balance it again, or find alignment, because like balance is going to be hard, but finding some level of alignment is, again, picking what are the most important things you want to do and be known for as a mom, as whatever your title is, as a partner, like just go through what those things are. And if it's like you want to be the person that goes to your kids' games, let's say your kids are in sports or something, or they're in music or something, then you have to then go and design your calendar that says, I am going to be at these games. And so then it trickles into what kind of worker do I want to be? Well, I want to be like competent in all those. I mean, I want people to see me. I know I'm good at what I do. So then it goes into, look, I need to strategize how do I get to the games, right? And do like really practical things. Like I encourage people to build a community where they can kind of swap things. So in my world, if I have a child and they have a music recital or a game or something, and I need to get a task done, if I have a coworker, I might be like, okay, I'm going to take these 2 meetings. You take these 2 meetings. We swap. We take notes so we both don't have to be there because I need like a good hour of uninterrupted work time to get this project done so I can get out the door. Again, it's strategy, not just working for nothing. And then hopefully if you have a partner or you have a community that supports you, be honest enough to say, like, I need a Saturday morning to me. Who can come over and watch these kids while I go and take a Saturday morning for me? I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't care. I'll figure it out on that Saturday. You know, you need to just be honest about having people community-wise support you. Other moms, like swapping. Like, you need a Saturday off? Great. I'll take the kids, but next week it's my turn. You take the kids, that kind of thing.
That's really good advice. I appreciate you for flushing that out. I have a few more things to debunk, and then we'll talk about the joy side, because I feel like we've been talking a lot about struggle and boundaries and all that. We're going to talk about the joy in a moment. But Gen Z is constantly under fire about boundaries, 5 p.m., switching jobs, etc. I'd love to know, what is your perspective on just the culture of Gen Z choosing to prioritize themselves, or even addressing the perspective that like Gen Z's lazy, or maybe they're not seeing things through like they should? I just love to know your insight on that.
So, I mean, I don't think Gen Z is lazy. I think what is like the balance of what we're trying to overcorrect for is seeing like millennials who, like myself, and people above even Gen X who are probably their parents, just work themselves for nothing. Like, right, they're not like super happy. They're at the end of their careers for a lot of these folks. And like, I don't see what's so great about my parents' life, but I don't want that. And so the correction for that is like, I need to take some me time and I need to take care of myself. And I think the answer is, yeah, you do need me time. You need to take care of yourself. But again, you need to be strategic. And when people say like, it's me time versus, but I don't want to work, which is like an extreme. And I don't think Gen Z is all doing that. I'm like, good news, you'll be unemployed and you will be miserable. Like, just so you know, if you want to eat, then you're going to have to work, right? So you can't always be me time. But I do think the advocacy of Gen Z is amazing. I think the fact that it matters that there is some kind of like DEI structure and mental health structure and benefits. I think it's that lobbying of like millennials, I'm gonna give us some credit, and Gen Z folks that keeps it alive and is going to shift the workplace. So I don't like think it's a bad thing. I think what I would tell Gen Z folks is like, also know that when you go to work, and I know no one's going to hear this. I hope they don't turn off your episode and be like, don't have Kelley back. But like, y'all chose to work for insert company X, not yourself. So there is some of that requires not a betrayal of self, but not a complete centering of self either, right? Like, don't betray like your morals and all that. I'm not suggesting that. But also, it's not going to be about you, because once you put this on your chest, you know, you working for a company copy, you got to put that lapel that says your company name, right? Once you put on your email, I work at xyz.com, you're going to have to do some things that xyz.com wants you to do, especially if you want to go up the ladder. So you are in a system, you may not like it, I don't, but we're in it, and you have to, like, to some degree, you are choosing to participate in that system when you get a job. And so part of that means that it can't always be about you, but certainly do not betray yourself and do not abandon your morals and principles to get a job. Like, that's never going to work for you either.
Absolutely not. And some of our audience are just now entering their career, and I do think this is a good segue to it. How do you advocate for yourself, though? It's hard to speak up to the C-suite leadership or their direct manager when they've never had to actually put that in action before. Do you have any advice or any tools that you think some people could use when they are maybe speaking up or advocating for themselves for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I have to think a little bit more about some of the resources, but part of it is you want to start researching. So when you have a question or something you need to say, go to like reputable sources, go to people who've been in that situation, who've been successful, not people who crashed out. And make sure that like this is why it helps to build mentors, because oftentimes what happened to me early in my career is like I would tell someone that I had as a mentor and they would do the heavy lifting. Like I'm probably not going to see my boss's boss, right? And make a change. But if I have a mentor who's at the table, they will advocate or they might speak up for me, right? And then sometimes it's about informal systems. Say you're getting talked over a lot, right? Make a deal with like more than one person so it doesn't come back on you, that if you get talked over, that person raises their hand or speaks next and say, actually, I think Kelley was saying something, so I'm just going to throw it to her, and then vice versa. So there's like formal ways to do it and informal ways. And when you're early in your career, you need both because you just don't have the power to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of the traditional structures, they don't necessarily go in your favor if it's like a complaint and it's not going to lead to like, there's not a legal ramification or something like that. It tends to be really sticky. So finding those kinds of informal powers, joining like groups online, like reputable ones that teach people how to advocate for themselves as an early professional, those are so important.
That's really good advice. I wish I would have known about that when I first started.
Me too, girl.
I've been afforded to work at a very great company where I feel like I can speak my mind and they are very open to hearing my thoughts, but a lot of my friends did not have that same situation. So where were you when I needed you?
Where was me when I needed me? I was like, I was struggling too. So I get it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for diving into those topics. I do want to segue at the tail end of our conversation to what does it mean for joy? And I know that you do have an episode that talks about opting into the power of play. What does play mean now for you as an adult?
Yeah, it means probably closer to what it meant as a kid, because I was not fun in my 20s. If I could tell you in your 20s, have more fun. If you're like me and a type A go-getter, I should say that. Don't be miserable. Don't waste all the cute and the hot on being boring. Like, don't do it. So now as an adult, play looks for me like it's more like what I think about what brought me joy as a kid. You know, I was a creative always. And so music brings me joy. I still make time to do that. I will like every time I have an opportunity to be dancing while I'm doing something, dancing while cleaning, dancing while cooking, because adulting, 0 out of 10. I try to pair those things together, right? Anytime I also like play looks to me like I'm a nerd and nerding out about things that make me smile that are not cool. That's play. Like I want to talk about, I'm not even gonna say those things because y'all will disown me again. I just am a super nerd about many things. But like I let myself be curious without it being connected to like work or something I need to do. I love reading. I love writing. I love going out and eating good food. Like I love trying different things. Like I let myself be a lot more uninhibited. I think that is what play is to me, is it's like I don't worry as much and I just, what's going to make me laugh? What's going to make me smile big? That's my cue. Like that's what I need to be doing more of. That's the more play I need to have in my life. Laughter, any of those things.
That's so good. And I also am a person that is obsessed with books. I want to know, out of curiosity, are you reading anything fun right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. I currently started a book called The Favorites. Everybody's like obsessed with like ice hockey and ice skating lately, and it's because of maybe the Winter Olympics. This is about, I can't quite explain. It's a thriller about this ice skating couple, right? That were both a couple for the ice skating and for like in real life. And there's a murder that's involved and a scandal, and they're like revisiting it 10 years later. And it is wild. These people are, I love mess. So it is messy. And if it's not Black people mess, it's even more my favorite. Like I need to be honest. Like I don't want to read Black people mess. Like that's trauma to me. I want to read white people mess because that's the best mess of all. I'm like, I don't feel one way or another. Like, whatever y'all are doing, this is pure entertainment. So it's white people mess. It's pure white people mess, and I'm living for it.
I love books like that.
It's like, I just take such a deep breath. I'm like, I don't need to worry about nothing in this book, but just turn the page. Oh, that's crazy. Turn the page again.
And when people talk about turning their brain off, I think that whether you like books, whether you like TV, music, etc., I think those are all really fun ways to do that. We're almost done with this conversation. I feel like we learned so much and there's so many things that we could take away. We do this segment of what I wish I would have known. So you kind of think from the lens of being your 20s professional self, but kind of making it a spin to how you navigate your platform, the opt-in, the opt-out. What is something that you wish you would have opted in on in your 20s? And then what is something you wish you would have opted out on in your 20s?
So I wish I would have opted in, like I said, into more play. I think took myself too. I mean, I was funny. I always had a good time, but I think I just took myself too seriously in my 20s. And I wish I would have opted into that. And I wish I would have opted out of caring so much about what people thought about me. I think it's just like natural in your 20s, trying to figure it out. Like you just care. I cared so much. What a man think about me. Don't care now. I'll say that much. That's another story for another day. But I mean, what my friends thought of me, like what a random like Starbucks barista thought getting my coffee. I just cared so much and wanted everyone to like me. And like the good news and bad news is it's not everyone's gonna, and that's okay. And I wish I would have opted out of that more.
Absolutely. And that's a lesson that I need to learn, not caring so much about what people think, especially being in the media. I mean, we're so front facing, and I know you can relate to that with your podcast. And Kelley, we haven't even scratched the surface, I feel like, out of all that we could talk about. But in order to continue these conversations or to hear more about how to navigate burnout, how to find peace, etc., how can they find you? How can they support you to get more resources?
So we keep it real simple. It's just Black Girl Burnout. Everywhere, every time, every place. It's on TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Substack, particularly if you're a reader. Substack is your place. Thank you for the plug, Taylor, for finding me there. Also, the podcast Black Girl Burnouts across all major platforms. So you can find me there, even a website. I will respond. Slide in the DMs. I answer. Slide in the Substack DMs. I answer. Just say hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelley. Is there anything else that you want 20-somethings to know about navigating the workplace, finding peace, finding joy, et cetera, before we end this conversation?
It's hard out here. Like, I don't want to lie to you, but I think you all will be fine, especially if you're listening to podcasts like this. Like, you are going to get the tools and the tips to be best and actually, like, listen. Don't listen to the outside noise. Listen to people that you trust. And you will be fine, and you will be successful as well. As you can be both successful and soft. And so don't put off softness until you have like an ulcer and a breakdown, right? Like just do both at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelley. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I will forever be a supporter of you. I love what you're doing. I love what you're building. So I just appreciate you for being on this platform.
Thank you for having me, Taylor. I love what you're doing as well.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And as always, we are uncovering who we are one chapter at a time, and we're unfolding at our own pace. And we're exactly where we need to be. Take care, everyone.